Hey everyone, these are the fattest and biggest animal specimens ever seen. Maybe they've become unchallenged apex predators or are overfed by owners with a little too much love for their pets. For one reason or another, these animals are absolutely huge. From massive sharks to absolute unit horses, it's time to take a look at 15 of the fattest animals seen in the wild. Let's begin. Number 15. Roger the Kangaroo. Roger the Kangaroo made waves when the internet caught wind of this ripped red kangaroo as he crushed a metal bucket like it was nothing. And while he seems like a character from a fighting game, he was very, very real, living out his life in an Australian nature sanctuary. According to his caretakers, Roger became the alpha of the group, standing 6 foot 7 inches tall and weighing about 200 pounds. He was rescued from his mother's pouch as a joey when his mother died from being hit by a car, and while he was an average-sized baby, he would quickly grow to this comically large size and physique. Chris Barnes, the founder of the preserve, has said on more than one occasion that Roger was not only known for his aggression, but also for getting into scuffles with the man as well. Barnes claimed that Roger clocked him so hard that he needed 6 stitches, and if Roger ever landed a kick on you, it could prove to be deadly. Sadly though, this big red kangaroo died just a few years ago in 2018 when he was just 12 years old, which isn't terribly old for a kangaroo, but Roger, he was certainly larger than life. Number 14. Deep Blue. Deep Blue is a female great white shark that's estimated to be about 20 feet long, over 2 tons, and over 50 years old. The shark was first spotted in Mexico by researcher Mauricio Padilla and has been featured on the Discovery Channel Shark Week. The shark was spotted by marine biologists studying tiger sharks near the island of Oahu in Hawaii. And while various videos show the shark as calm and non-aggressive around humans and even dolphins, she's not the type of giant animal that you'd want to just run into in the wild. She's been tagged by researchers so they know what she gets up to during the day, and they even know where to find her out in the wild ocean. They've paid her more than one visit, and have even gotten up close and personal by viewing her from the safety of a cage. But some of the braver folks will even swim with her. Despite the large size of Deep Blue, she's been filmed non-aggressively approaching one diver and even tolerating the presence of other scuba divers in the area, even allowing a free diver, Ocean Ramsey, to hold on to one of her fins while swimming with her. Or maybe Deep Blue just thought she was too small to fill her stomach with. Despite these kinds of encounters, many shark researchers and marine specialists have criticized some of these interactions, saying that Deep Blue should be essentially left alone because as an enormous, wild, 2-ton predator, she can become overstressed from too much human interaction. Number 13. 480 Otis. In 2021, the bear known as 480 Otis won the award for being the fattest bear in the world. A dozen of the largest brown bears on Earth faced off during a Fat Bear Week, an annual battle of the bulk that rewards their pre-winter hibernation gains. Otis, who won in 2014, 2016, and 2017, was neither the biggest nor the youngest in this year's competition. But the grizzled veteran easily prevailed over the other beefy behemoths. 480 Otis weighed over 1,000 pounds as he geared up for his big winter sleep and subsisted mostly on a diet of wild salmon. It is absolutely astounding that this bear can grow so fat, but he's going to need that fat storage for the coming months to keep himself happy and healthy. To make this situation even funnier, he was incredibly skinny just months before during the summer. But at an estimated 26 years old out of an average lifespan of 20 to 30, he's firmly into his final years, and his body is showing its age, and that sort of weight becomes less and less sustainable as the years go on. Bears living in protected areas like 480 Otis tend to die not just from old age, but from competition from younger and stronger bears. But how has 480 Otis managed to make it this far? Well, his success lies in how he's turned his age and experience into an advantage, because as younger bears have displaced him from the prime spots in his home of Brooks Falls, he's learned to fish as patiently as possible, sitting in one spot for hours at a time and scooping up the passing salmon from the water without burning any extra calories. So it looks like maybe some of his weight can be attributed to his big brain. Number 12. Kale Chip. A running gag in old movies is a henchman with a name that doesn't quite fit his physical description. Think a tall man made of muscles named Tiny. Well, that's exactly what happened with Kale Chip. When Kale Chip was surrendered to a Chicago Animal Care and Control in 2015, he weighed 85 pounds. Sadly, Kale Chip's owner was an elderly woman with severe memory loss, and while she did love her beagle to bits, she had a hard time taking care of him. It was a simple case of feeding him out of sheer love, but that became a form of neglect. She simply couldn't care for the dog anymore. It's clear that he was never taken for walks, and at 85 pounds, Kale Chip couldn't even walk if he wanted to. The The thing about beagles, though, is they have an insatiable appetite. With short legs and keep their nose low to the ground, they're constantly on the hunt, scanning and sniffing the ground for something to eat. Even a fully fed beagle will go for seconds and even thirds if it can. The great people at the care center changed Kale Chip's diet immediately, feeding him a high-protein, low-calorie diet and keeping him under strict supervision. But then there was the issue of exercise. A dog needs to walk, and if this 85-pound pooch is going to lose weight, then he's got to get moving. Before they could put him on leash and get him outside, Kale Chip would walk on an underwater treadmill. But everyone deserves a happy ending. In just a few months, Kale Chip was able to cut his weight down to 23 pounds and was put up for adoption. Number 11. Sampson. Horses are big, beautiful, and majestic creatures, and while some breeds are larger than others, the average height of a horse is going to be between 55 and 71 inches. But Sampson the horse is an exception to that rule. He was 7 feet tall and weighed over 3,000 pounds by the time he was 4 years old. So unless your name is Shaquille O'Neal, good luck saddling up on that pony. Sampson was a Shire horse, a breed known for their particularly large size, growing to be about 5.5 feet tall and weighing about 2,000 pounds. But Sampson managed to stand out even amongst his own kind. To this day, he's the largest horse on record, which is pretty impressive considering he was born in 1846. Hailing from the county of Bedfordshire in England, Sampson weighed more than a 2022 Honda Civic. And one fun fact about Sampson, he was gelded when he was 1 year old, and by that time, his organs were the size of footballs. Not much else is known about Sampson, but it's highly unlikely that another horse will ever surpass his sheer size and biblical greatness. Number 10. A Florida Burmese python. The Florida Everglades are teeming with Burmese pythons. Many of the good Floridians living in the area have become used to them and have learned to live amongst them for some time now. But the Burmese python is an invasive species, meaning they're not endemic to the Everglades and have wreaked havoc on the humid ecosystem. When they see them, humans tend to steer clear of these giant serpents, but in June 2022, biologists came across a record-breaking 215-pound, 18-foot-long female Burmese python, the largest and heaviest in the state. The Conservancy of Southwest Florida found and captured her as part of their research program surrounding the invasive giants. They were able to find this big gal thanks to their tracking snake, a male python named Dionysus, equipped with a radio transmitter. The male pythons are attracted to the largest females, so the conservatory lets Dionysus do all the work, leading them to the biggest and the baddest of the ladies. Then the team swoops in and brings the females to the lab for euthanization, because the last thing the Everglades needs is more pythons slithering around in the grass, eating livestock and occasionally attacking humans. Before this particular specimen, the largest of her kind in the state was just 185 pounds. Man, imagine something as thick as a telephone pole hiding in the tall grass. But the record-setting behavior didn't stop there. When the team at the conservatory performed a necropsy on the snake, she was holding 122 developing eggs in her abdomen, the largest number of eggs ever found in a Floridian snake. Burmese pythons are indigenous to Southeast Asia, where they're considered vulnerable to extinction due to overhunting, so it may seem a bit unfair that they're hunted and euthanized in Florida. But remember, these Floridian pythons are all victims of the illegal and often harmful exotic pet trade. They either escape their captors or are released by their owners, who realize that they don't make great house pets. And the biggest thing about these pythons is they're not very picky eaters, and are willing to eat anything from as small as a rabbit to something as large as a deer or a Florida panther. Number 9. Knickers the Steer. Standing at nearly 6.5 feet tall, Knickers the Steer is quite literally an absolute beast. Towering over the cows alongside him, Knickers is a Holstein Friesian, a breed that originated in North Holland and northern Germany that humans have been breeding for dairy production over the last 2,000 years. He lives on a 3,000-acre cattle farm in Western Australia and weighs more than 1.5 tons, which is about the same as a Toyota. It's an astounding fact considering most males of his breed don't make it taller than 5 feet. When photos made the rounds on the internet, there were plenty of skeptics who didn't believe their eyes and claimed Photoshop. And in this day and age, it's not the craziest thing. But reporters were on the scene and confirmed that Knickers was very, very real as he towered over them. But the big question is, how the hell did he get so big? Was he bred that way? Was he pumped full of hormones? Is he just a genetic freak of nature? Well, not even the owner of the farm has an answer to that, other than it's just what it is. Hopefully, because he's so special, Knickers won't be sold for parts and will get to live out the rest of his larger-than-life life quietly on the farm. Number 8. Gary the Capybara. Capybaras live in South America, and you may not be able to tell by looking at them, but they are in fact rodents, giant rodents. Luckily for the rest of us, they're much sweeter, cuter, and less pesky than common rodents like mice and rats. Some people manage to get their hands on capybaras and keep them as exotic pets. The most famous one of these pets, though, is Gary. Gary was bought from a breeder in Arkansas before moving to Texas with his new owners. Oh, and he weighs 112 pounds. Capybaras spend a lot of time in the water, and so Gary's lucky enough that his owners built a special above-ground pool just for him. Feeding him can be pretty expensive. Luckily, he's an herbivore, but he's still going to go through 4 tubs of lettuce a day. But his owners will treat him every now and again, feeding him things like melons, grapes, blueberries, corn, apples, and broccoli. Gary's pretty much given a full range of the house and lives happily alongside the family dogs, cats, rabbits, tortoises, and even a horse. And because capybaras spend much of their time wading in the water, his owners even put in an above-ground pool for the giant rodent. It even seems that Gary thinks he's a bit of a dog. He knows how to turn in a circle, stand on his hind legs, shake hands, and jump on things on command, all in the name of a treat. Not a bad life considering his species are typically prey for jaguars and anacondas. Go Gary. Number 7. Ralph the Rabbit. Alright, there's no denying that rabbits are absolutely adorable. Whether you spot one in the wild or are lucky enough to have one at home, no one can withstand their cuteness. It's the fur, the eyes, the ears, and their compact size. But not for Ralph the Rabbit. Ralph was a 4-year-old rabbit living at home in the United Kingdom and held the Guinness World Record for the world's largest rabbit when he weighed in at 55 pounds. That's heavier than most dogs. Ralph isn't going to be left to his own devices when it comes to food, though. Grazing about the front yard isn't going to be enough for a rabbit of that size, not even close. So his owners have said that he typically goes through about $75 worth of food a week. That's almost $4,000 worth of cabbage, broccoli, corn, cucumbers, carrots, bread, apples, watercress, and crackers a year. But believe it or not, Ralph comes from a proud lineage of big-boned rabbits. His mother, Amy, held the record for the world's heaviest rabbit until she sadly died of a heart attack. And even her mate, Ralph's father, Roberto, once held the record. I guess sometimes greatness just runs or hops in the family. Number 6. Harriet the Tortoise. The Galapagos tortoise is the largest species of tortoise in the world. Endemic to the islands of their namesake, some of them can grow to over 900 pounds. They're enormous, looking like real-life dinosaurs. But one Galapagos tortoise in particular captured the hearts and minds of the worldwide scientific community for over a century: Harriet the tortoise. Harriet is sadly no longer with us, having died in 2006, but she was one of the oldest living known tortoises, having been born in 1830. Harriet was reportedly collected by Charles Darwin himself during his 1835 visit to the Galapagos Islands as part of his round-the-world survey expedition, transported to England and then taken to her final home in Australia, and her final owners, Terry and Steve Irwin. It's amazing to think that this animal, who was no larger than a small dinner plate when she was born, would grow to be over 300 pounds. Who knows what sort of things Harriet has seen in her lifetime. Number 5. Hercules the Liger. While we were all laughing at Napoleon Dynamite when he drew pictures of the mythical liger in his notebook, scientists were laughing at us because the liger is very real. It is one of the most well-known hybrids to exist, but don't expect to see one on the hunt in the savannah. This artificially created beast only exists in the zoos and sanctuaries that have birthed them. The largest living cat is Hercules, an adult male liger currently living at the Myrtle Beach Safari, a wildlife reserve in South Carolina made famous in the Tiger King documentary. Hercules lives up to his name at nearly 11 feet long, 4 feet tall at the shoulder, and weighing 922 pounds. This fat cat is as big as it gets. How the hell does one take care of a liger of that magnitude? Well, Myrtle Beach Safari says that this fat cat eats around 30 pounds of meat a day and washes it all down with several liters of water. Hybrid animals don't live as long as their purebred parents, but Hercules continues to defy expectations and is still very large, healthy, and strong for more than 10 years running. The African male can weigh up to 420 pounds and the average Bengal tigress is around 300 pounds. So the fact that Hercules weighs more than 2 of those combined is just stunning. And despite his chunky-looking physique, Myrtle Beach Safari says he is in fact not obese and is the perfect weight for his dimensions. But that stomach hanging low to the ground has me thinking otherwise. Number 4. Bruin 747. Every year around the end of September and beginning of October, the greatest American holiday begins, the National Park Service's Fat Bear Week. In 2020, the appropriately named Bruin 747 took home the top prize, beating out the fellow 2,200 brown bears in Alaska's Katmai National Park, gunning for the crown. That year saw a record run of salmon and fewer people than ever, meaning the bears had full run over their territory, chomping down on as much salmon as they could before hibernation begins. Before they go into their dens for the big sleep, these bears can weigh over 1,000 pounds, just to lose about a third of their body weight by the time they wake up. The Park Service said that this wide-bodied 747 was so big that his belly quite literally dragged across the ground by late September. Darwin may have talked about survival of the fittest, but Fat Bear Week calls for the survival of the fattest. And because these bears are out there doing their own thing, they aren't weighed, so no one can know for sure just how many pounds 747 packed on. But when comparing photos of fellow fat bears, 747 was by far the largest. This is one 747 that has zero chances of getting off the ground. Number 3. Lolong the Croc. Measuring at 20 feet 3 inches and weighing 2,370 pounds, Lolong was the largest crocodile in captivity. Lolong was caught in Bunuan Creek in the province of Agusan del Sur in the Philippines on September 3, 2011. He was captured with the joint cooperation of the local government unit, residents, and crocodile hunters of Palawan. Hunted for over a period of 3 weeks, it took a whopping 100 people to bring him onto land. He naturally became aggressive at several points during the capture and is so strong that he twice broke restraining ropes before eventually being properly secured. He was estimated to be at least 50 years old when they got him, but the giant croc Lolong had an interesting yet morbid history. He was suspected of eating a local fisherman who went missing in the town of Bunuan, and also consuming a 12-year-old girl whose head was discovered 2 years earlier. He was also the primary suspect in the disappearance of water buffaloes in the area. But during the examination of the stomach contents after his capture, no remnants of water buffaloes reported missing before Lolong's capture were found, meaning the killer is still out there. Capturing him was like bringing in a criminal in a sense, and it was the local citizens along with the government who were against re-releasing it back into the wild. He was just too big and too hungry. He died in captivity in 2013 from pneumonia and cardiac arrest, which was aggravated by a fungal infection and stress, which was likely caused by living in captivity. His remains were preserved by taxidermy at the Philippines National Museum of Natural History. Number 2. 18-foot great white shark. Alright, the next chubby chaser on our list lives in the water of Stewart Island in New Zealand. This diver goes down into their incredibly small and claustrophobic aluminum cage during a shark expedition, and the moment they make it inside, they're greeted by an 18-foot great white shark. On average, a female usually doesn't exceed 15 feet long, but this one really packed on the pounds. The massive predator seems to be curious, maybe a little too curious, as it can't help but circle and stare at the diver inside. And at the drop of a hat, the 18-foot great white unhinges its jaws and goes right for the floater in the cage. Why? Well, perhaps just the nature of the beast, or maybe it just wanted to see what it tastes like. Either way, it has to be the scariest moment of that diver's life, even if they are a professional. Despite being in the cage, the only truly safe space here is out of the water and on a boat. But to make matters worse, the shark begins to thrash about with the float still in its mouth, violently waving the cage about with it. If the floater was a fish, or worse, the diver, they'd be as good as gone, because while those teeth and jaws are good enough to crush bones and rip through flesh, the thrashing is meant to tear chunks out of the prey. Good thing for the diver, though, the shark didn't like the taste of the floater and decided to swim away after a brief moment. But for the man inside the cage, it must have seemed like a lifetime. Number 1. Maybelle. In 2017, the Animal Rescue League of Boston was called in to rescue one of their largest specimens yet, a 1-year-old pot-bellied pig. Now, pot-bellied pigs are known for their massive size, but this one here seemed to quite literally take the cake. Young Maybelle's story has a sad beginning. The excess weight she was carrying around wasn't just detrimental to her health, it was downright deadly. Maybelle weighed nearly 200 pounds and was so large she could only stand for a few seconds at a time and suffered from sores on her underside due to lack of mobility. And because she couldn't walk, her hooves were overgrown to the point of severe discomfort. The young lady was in constant pain with no end in sight before her rescue by the Animal Rescue League of Boston. She even had a roll of fat covering her eyes. Alright, we've seen some pretty funny fat animals today, but this one will break even the coldest of hearts. The Rescue League normally takes care of dogs and cats, so they especially had their work cut out for them. They decided she needed to lose at least 80 pounds to get her moving again and regain her strength. Sweet Maybelle was kept under close monitoring and put on a low-calorie diet, which included 6 small meals of feed and veggies every day. Apparently, her previous owner kept her on a diet of dog food and was charged with animal cruelty. But this story thankfully has a happy ending, and after losing her first 25 pounds, Maybelle was adopted and brought to her new forever home. A special shelter was built for her, and she was given plenty of outdoor space to roam around in. I'll see you next time. Watch our Animals playlist for more top 15 videos about animals. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best animal-related videos